Nunes goes on strike to force through a move to Manchester City. Yes, he has. Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. It is deadline day week. Not long to go. And Nunes has taken the ultimate step to engineer a move to the champions. But will it work? Also on the way, movement at Manchester United as Dean Henderson closes in on a move to Crystal Palace. And with 4 days of the window to go, we have news on Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay and United's search for left-back cover. Tottenham are in talks with Nottingham Forest over their winger Brennan Johnson. And as one striker edges closer to a Chelsea exit, will the summer's biggest spenders go back into the market? Well. So, Mark, huge developments at Wolves. Tell us what's going on.
Well, desperate times call for desperate measures. And as you said at the top of the show, we're into the final week of the window. And those players that haven't got the move that they wanted have one option. There's a big red button. They hit it. That's when they go on strike. That's when they say, I'm not prepared to play for you anymore. I want to get this move forced through and I'm not going to be doing anything until I get my way. And that's what's happened with regards to Wolves and Matheus Nunes. Now, this is a story that David Ornstein broke a couple of hours ago and our sources have also confirmed this is very much the case at the moment. And Nunes has gone on strike to try and force through this move to Manchester City. Today is the second day of his strike. So this is the second day he's not turned up to the football club's training ground and not been where he should be. Nunes will be disciplined by the football club with regards to this. So it's a really unhealthy situation at the moment. This comes off the back of Manchester City's interest in the player. They had an initial offer rejected last week, which was £47 million. That was Thursday of last week. There was no movement over the course of the weekend, and it seems now on this bank holiday Monday, yet again, still no movement between Manchester City and Wolves. He only joined last year in the summer, so therefore he's got a long contract still at the football club, 4 years plus a year's option in the club's favour. It's our understanding that Wolves would only be interested in offers that were a minimum of £60 million. So there is a small gap between the valuation of Manchester City and Wolves. And it's our understanding that Manchester City will come back to the table. But as you saw at the top of the show, time's running out.
Yeah, it is. So something could happen there. Let's talk Manchester United. Let's talk Harry Maguire. Probably unlikely he'll go on strike, but any chance he could go before the deadline?
Never say never. It's looking unlikely at the moment. West Ham United, we're told, are looking at the possibility of now doing a loan deal for Harry Maguire, the Manchester United defender. No formal talks have been reopened with United as it stands, and is expected to stay as it stands. We're going to use that phrase quite a bit in the next 3 or 4 days, so I forewarn you, because things can always change with so little time to go. With regard to United, they probably are looking at that situation now as well and thinking we do need cover because they're assessing Rafael Varane's injury. He came off at half-time of Saturday's victory against Nottingham Forest at Old Trafford. So Victor Lindelof came on in place of him. And even though we know it seems that Harry Maguire is down the pecking order, there are a number of injuries in Manchester United's back four just now. West Ham, you remember earlier on in this transfer window, they'd agreed a £30 million deal with Manchester United for Maguire, only for Maguire to say, actually, I want to stay, I want to fight for my place. Eric Ten Hag is happy for his players to have that attitude. And with 4 days to go, it'll be increasingly difficult for a deal like this to get over the line, because I think Manchester United, if they were to do that, would probably want to bring in a replacement as well. OK, what about Scott McTominay? Yeah, this is interesting. If we just look at the overview of Manchester United with regard to potential incomings, I know you're talking about Scott McTominay being an outgoing, but it could be related to any other players that could come into the football club. As it stands, we're told that there are no major incomings expected at Manchester United before the end of this transfer window. However, potential midfield options are being considered should a suitable opportunity arise for United. Now, we know that Fiorentina's Sofyan Amrabat has been the talk of United in the last two or 3 weeks. He is a player that United like. He is a player that Erik ten Hag likes. He is a player that has played under Erik ten Hag before at Utrecht. But the feeling is that a lot of the noise surrounding Sofyan Amrabat is coming from the Italian side and also the people surrounding Amrabat and his camp. Bayern Munich's Ryan Gravenberch, he is another option that Manchester United have looked at as well. And there are reports emanating from Germany almost mooting a potential swap involving Scott McTominay. However, Scott McTominay came off the bench for United late on, admittedly, against Nottingham Forest on Saturday. And as it stands, he will remain at the club. And he's another player that West Ham United went in for. They made a £30 million bid for McTominay earlier on in the window. That was rejected out of hand. As it stands, we don't expect him to go as it stands.
As it stands. All right, let's talk Tottenham Hotspur. As things stand there, are they going to spend some money on that they got for Harry Kane?
It certainly looks like that way. Our information is that they're looking to improve their squad where possible, and they're looking at potentially 3 different players to play as inside forwards, wide and left and right wingers. Players that can just be in those attacking bursts. They're not old-fashioned number 9s anymore. You have one of them through the middle and 2 that play off of him. One of the players that is of interest to Tottenham Hotspur is Brennan Johnson at Nottingham Forest, a player that I've admired since he was on loan at Lincoln City in League One a number of years ago. And he has gone through the stages and up the gears and become a real player, hence why Tottenham are interested in him. Our information at the moment is that whilst there is dialogue between Forest and Tottenham, there has been no formal offer at the moment. We know that Brentford are also interested in the player. They put in an offer at the beginning of this window, which we understand to be around £30 million, that was rejected. Nottingham Forest very much looking for upwards of £50 million for a superstar player they believe could go right to the very top. He's a Welsh international as well. He fits the perfect profile that Tottenham are looking for. Only this time last year did he sign a new contract as well, so he's still got 3 years left on his current Forest deal. So they hold all the aces with regards to him. 8 Premier League goals last season, but this is going to be one to watch because you look at Tottenham, the way they've started. Daniel Levy might just look at this Ange Postecoglou era and what's going on and say, I need to back this manager. Yeah. He's doing something special with this group.
Brennan Johnson might go, I fancy playing for them.
Absolutely. When you look at the way James Maddison started the season, the exciting football that they're playing, he may see this as his opportunity to say, right, this is a new challenge at a big club in London. I want to take this. However, he could say, I want to stay with Steve Cooper. This is one to monitor. Speaking
of new challenges, Romelu Lukaku, has he finally got a way out of Chelsea?
It looks like we're nearing the end game with this. Talks have been going on between Roma and Chelsea over the signing of Romelu Lukaku. They were happening over the weekend. They've carried on today, we're told, as well. An agreement on a fee for a straight loan is thought to be close. So the loan fee is thought to be close. The payment of the wages and whether Roma can cover the full salary, we still think that is under discussion between the two clubs. Roma, though, are hopeful of concluding a deal, and there appears now to be a willingness from Chelsea, from Roma, and from Romelu Lukaku to get this deal done. If you go back to the start of this transfer window, we knew that he wasn't going to have a future at Chelsea. All the money was on him moving to Inter Milan. He wanted to go back there. Inter Milan wanted to bring him back, and then it went quiet there. He started talking to Juventus. Inter Milan didn't like that at all. But for Juventus to get him on a permanent deal, they would have had to have released one of their players for money to be able to fund the move. The only reason that Roma now have managed to come into the equation is because Chelsea have almost just relaxed their stance, almost. Ideal scenario was they wanted to do a permanent deal for Romelu Lukaku. Now they've introduced a loan and potentially a loan with an option, which has brought more potential suitors into the equation. Hence why Roma are able to do a deal. And their officials came into London on Friday. They were present at the Chelsea against Luton Town game on Friday night. And they've continued talks with Chelsea officials throughout the weekend and today. So hopefully, for everyone's sake, including mine, this one will get done very soon, so I don't have to mention him again.
OK, so if it does get done, will Chelsea go back into the market and bring somebody in?
I mean, they are in the market to bring in a forward. They have been for quite a large part of this transfer window. But it's going to be difficult because of the time constraints. They've been linked with the players like Brennan Johnson, with Barcola of Lyon as well. So there hasn't been much movement on that just now. And you know what? They've signed a player from Santos last week, David Washington, who we thought might go on loan to Strasbourg, potentially, the sister club of Chelsea. But they're still making a decision on whether David Washington might actually stay with the first team squad, particularly if they can't get a deal for a forward over the line.
Are Brighton getting closer to replacing Moises Caicedo?
Yes, we understand that they have agreed a deal over the course of this weekend with Carlos Baleba, and he is set to undergo a medical within the next 24 hours. So this is significant news, because you saw at the weekend they had two brilliant games at the start of the Premier League campaign, humbled by West Ham this weekend. There was potentially a bit of a gap in the middle of the park, someone that can shield that back four. The Moises Caicedo replacement is closer to joining Brighton. 19-year-old midfielder from Lille. We understand the package to be worth around £25 million, so it's a significant outlay once again for Brighton, who are spending that money very wisely indeed. He had 3 years left on his deal at Lille. But he was on the bench at the weekend for their game against Lorient, so he didn't play for them this weekend. We also understand that Arsenal's Albert Sambi Lokonga was of interest to Brighton, but the fact that they've got this Baleba deal agreed would suggest that that interest might have cooled somewhat. But yeah, Moises Caicedo's replacement, 24 hours away from a medical.
Yeah, they don't get much wrong in the transfer market, Brighton. All right, what's going on at Fulham? Well, their head coach, Marco Silva, says his squad is short on numbers and he hopes to sign more players before the window shuts.
We have to do our maximum to try to get and to do what we haven't done until now. Of course, because it will be really important for us. We are really short and late in terms of numbers, and we in preparation in that aspect. And of course, we have to try everything to do what we haven't done until now.
Right, he wants numbers in. Is he going to get a fullback in?
Looks like it. Timothy Castagna. He's been having a medical ahead of his move from Leicester City to Fulham. And Marco Silva, who was speaking to the press earlier on today, he actually confirmed that move is not done, but it is close. Castagna, of course, Belgium international, is into the final 2 years of his Leicester contract, so probably the right time for Leicester to get good money for Timothy Castagna. He hasn't featured at all for Leicester City in their very, very good start to the Championship season so far.
OK, all right, let's take a break. When we come back, we've got news from Arsenal, plus more from Chelsea, Tottenham, Manchester United and Leeds United. We'll see you in just a few moments. Hello again. Right, let's talk Manchester United. They've got a real issue at left back. There's no Shaw, there's no Malacia for some time. A couple of high-profile names mentioned. So where are we with it?
Yeah, look, United are continuing to assess options because of those injuries you mentioned to Shaw and Malacia. Among those that they've looked at are the Tottenham left-back Sergio Reguilon, who doesn't seem to be in favour under Ange Postecoglou at all, and Chelsea's Marc Cucurella, who they bought for big money from Brighton, around £60 million, and is not getting a look in under Mauricio Pochettino. We think Manchester United's preference would be to look at a loan for that position, which would make sense because these are injuries. These are not players who are departing the club in Shaw and Malacia. Once they come back, they will probably go back into the team. But someone like Cucurella is an interesting one because he could play a variety of positions. So maybe that one would be the more beneficial one to Manchester United. We think they've made an initial approach to Chelsea about him. But as it stands, that's as far as it's got with the pursuit of a potential left-back.
Yeah, he looked a world beater at Brighton, didn't he? And it's not worked out for him so far at Chelsea. All right, let's talk Nottingham Forest, Mark. They're after a midfielder, I gather.
Yeah, in the market for a midfielder, and they're currently in talks with Leicester City over a deal for Wilfred Ndidi, the 26-year-old who joined Leicester in January 2017. He's been there for a good number of years, but has entered the final year of his current contract. So this one is just under discussion at the moment, but he's on the radar for Steve Cooper. Versatile midfielder, can play as a holding midfielder, also played at centre-back as well, and You've seen me and Darmish talk about it so many times over the course of this summer's window. So many players that can play in multiple positions are very attractive, and Wilfred Ndidi certainly ticks that box. So this is another one to keep an eye on. But yeah, Nottingham Forest and Leicester in talks. OK, versatile but a midfielder. Let's stay in midfield then. Philippe Coutinho, is he on his way out of Villa? Certainly seems like it. There was a big, a lot of excitement, really, at Aston Villa when he signed after being on loan initially. He certainly had a huge impact in those early stages. However, it certainly feels like his time at Villa Park is coming to an end now. We know that the Qatari champions, Al Duhail, are interested in signing him. They have put an offer on the table to him, which he is currently considering, which we understand to be quite sizable in terms of the money that's being offered. He has signed a long-term contract at Aston Villa, so he is going to be there as things stand until the summer of 2026. So they will have to agree a fee. We know that Aston Villa paid £17 million for him. This is another one to keep an eye on. But yeah, it doesn't look good in terms of Philippe Coutinho staying at Villa Park. OK. Darmish, Florian Plettenberg mentioned this on the international transfer show on Friday. Thomas Tuchel, perhaps after one of his former defenders. Any movement on this? Yes, this is an interesting one because Bayern Munich have made initial contact with Chelsea, of course, Thomas Tuchel's former club, over the signing of the defender Trevoh Chalobah. Now, Chalobah is seen as a possible replacement for Benjamin Pavard. But Pavard hasn't actually left Bayern Munich just yet. He's into the final year of his contract. Inter Milan, we know, are working on a deal to try and sign the French international. We know that Manchester United were interested in Pavard as well. That was if Harry Maguire was to go and United were to get money. That one didn't materialise. If a deal can be agreed with Chelsea over Chalobah and Inter Milan can agree a deal with Bayern Munich over Benjamin Pavard, then the deal is on. But the decision with regard to Chalobah will rest with Chalobah himself because Chelsea can agree a deal, but he's under contract and he kind of holds the cards there in one way. And he's still got 5 years left on his contract with the option of a further year as well, as is the way with Chelsea and their contract. But isn't this the issue? When you've got a player and you've signed them for these massively long contracts, if it doesn't work out, then there's a problem. There can be, but then you can have a situation where if a player goes on loan and he's still under a long-term contract, and someone like Chalobah would be pure profit anyway for Chelsea, if he was to go to Bayern Munich on loan and say there wasn't an option and he performed really well, he comes back to Chelsea and either resurrects his career with Chelsea or his market value goes up. But what if he says, I'm not going anywhere and doesn't play and just sits there for 5 years, getting paid? Then there is that issue, but then that's up to Trevoh Chalobah. If he doesn't want to play and he wants to stay at Chelsea for 5 years, which is going to be very, very unlikely because players like Trevoh Chalobah will probably want to play football. Yeah, OK. Mark, let's talk Willian. What's going on with him? Yeah, someone that won the Premier League twice, was a free transfer earlier this summer. He decided to extend his stay in West London with Fulham, signed a new one-year contract. But since then, there has been a lot of interest in the midfield man. Fulham expect him to stay. And he signed a contract, and they say, well, you signed a contract, you're going to stay. But
played really well last season.
Played really well. But there's been so much interest in him since he signed that Fulham contract. It baffles me in a way, because if the interest had come at the start of the summer, then he may have left. So in terms of that interest, we know that Al-Shabaab have been trying to sign him, and there has been interest from another Abu Dhabi club as well. Now, of course, the window is still open in the Middle East for some time, so there are things that could rumble on beyond Friday's deadline day here. But as things stand, the 35-year-old is expected to stay at Fulham.
We've got to 5:23. Now I'm going to say it. Fulham Balogun.
Deal is close. Very close
Still.
now. Yeah, he's been in Monaco over the weekend having a medical. Fee is worth around £38 million to Arsenal. The contract that he will sign is a 5-year contract, we're told. From the outset of this transfer window, we know that Fulham Balogun wanted a permanent move away from Arsenal this time. He didn't want to go on loan again like he did last season to Reims, where he performed so well. So Monaco will have seen that close hand, how well he did for them. 34 starts, 21 goals. But this time, he said, with 2 years left on his contract, I want to move permanently so that I can actually set roots somewhere and build my career. So it looks like Monaco have got their man. It's close, we think. We think it's going to be a case of when and not if that this one will happen in the coming days. Lots of clubs have been interested in Fulham Balogun throughout this transfer window. Looks like he's on his way to Monaco, though.
OK, right, let's whiz through a few names. Jed Spence, are Leeds going to get him from Spurs?
Not yet, but they're trying. There are talks between both Leeds and Tottenham Hotspur over a move for the 23-year-old right-back who got so little game time, didn't he, at Tottenham after his big money move from Middlesbrough last summer. Just 4 appearances in the Premier League. None of those were starts. Then in January, he went on loan to Rennes, where he made 10 appearances. The clubs are currently talking.
All right. Leeds looking at anyone else?
Luke Thomas, Leicester, left-back, 22-year-old. Leeds are interested in him, but only on loan. Of course, he had a fantastic summer. He was involved with the England under-21s when they won the Euros, so he's coming off the back of a real high. But it seems these days Leicester are numbered at this stage, made 24 appearances for them in the league and the cup. Leeds are interested, but only if it's a loan.
West Ham going to spend some more of that Declan Rice money?
Looks that way. Their technical director, Tim Steighton, he's been on a world tour in the last week, it feels like. He's currently in Brazil now in negotiations with Corinthians over the signing of their forward, Yuri Alberto. Talks have been described to me as positive, but they've yet to find an agreement, but they are getting closer. Player himself has indicated that he would be open to a move to the London Stadium. He's already been capped by Brazil as well. He's made 1 appearance for them.
Tosin Adarabioyo got there in the end.
Well done.
What's going with him?
I'm glad you said it and not me.
I should know. You used to play for City.
He's currently training away from the first team. So this is another situation. We started with regards to Nunes at the top of the show, who'd gone on strike. This is another player away from the first team. And that was Fulham's request. He wants to get the move. He wants to leave the football club. Monaco are hopeful of signing the player, and they believe they can get the deal done within the next 48 hours. The discussions ongoing.
Bit more Man United news. Can you do it in 10 seconds?
Well, I can tell you about a former Manchester United player, actually. Links with West Ham. Jesse Lingard continues to train with the first-team squad. They're still considering a West Ham whether to offer him a short-term deal or not. But no rush. He's a free agent, so this can be done outside the window. OK, that is the transfer show at 5. We've got much more for you at 7. The boys will be back for that. After the break, Sky Sports News, and we're going to talk the US Open. I'll see you in a moment.